Committee members, I have the time as being 11 o'clock, so we're going to get started with our call to order. Ms. Bowie would not mind doing a roll call.
Josie Barnhart,
Here.
Pat Bradford, I am here, and Stephanie Walker.
Here. The next on our agenda is to approve the agenda. Do I hear a motion? I'll second. And any discussion about that? All in favor to approve the agenda?
So,
Aye.
I'm sorry, Ms. Barnhart.
Yes,
Can you make it clear on here that it's about the legislative networking? Because I know the last time we talked about regional and local.
To make that, I
Just
am
make a
fine with
distinction.
you're saying to make an amendment, just to be clear of
Yeah.
the regional.
That's all.
That's the purpose of this meeting, so I have no problem adding in, it should be. So then to amend the motion to say approval of the agenda with the correction of saying a regional legislative networking event?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second for that? And I'll second that. Any further discussion about that? All in favor of approving the agenda with that change of regional legislative networking event, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That passes 3-0. And before you, you have two sets of minutes. We have the set of minutes from the last meeting, which was in September, and the meeting before that, which was in January, or not January, sorry. I can't. Three. What months is that? January, February, March. It was in March. Sorry, your motion to approve the minutes as written. Have we looked at, I know the two sets of minutes that we have before you, one for September and one for March. And for those listening, this is also on Simply, so you can look at those meeting minutes. I am fine giving a few minutes to committee members to look that over. I know the lengthier one, it was in March. So let's give 3 minutes for that.
Are we going to have to video all of our meetings? The reason why this one wasn't, it's one, we have another state superintendent is going to be at CTEC, so a lot of the video folks are going to be there. And so I'm pulling them off of their job to do this, and we're only here to put an agenda together. And so as the superintendent, I'll just be honest, I'm a little frustrated that I had to take them from another job to come here, and he had to drive over here to do this when we are just putting an agenda together. And the BOE was taken, the reason the BOE was taken, that's why we couldn't do it. And so when someone is actually doing the videography, someone's typically sitting in the back, or if it's an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and that's all they're doing is monitoring. So he had to come over here and set this up to do this.
That's a fair point, and at this juncture, we would have to add a discussion to change the agenda to discuss that, and that would require 2 majority, which is 2 of us, to add that as a discussion.
Because there's nothing in policy. There's nothing in policy that says this. And I just feel, I'll be honest with you, being transparent, that it's almost like someone's doing something wrong. And I was the one who moved it, and I'm not doing anything wrong. And I don't like it when people are questioning my ethics. And so I have a huge problem with when we're questioning my ethics. And I'm like, but I'm literally like, okay, Sal, bring someone over to do it. But what we're doing, and Crystal's in here taking minutes. And so Crystal's going to get all the minutes and she's going to capture all those. But I don't want it to seem as though like to If you're at 12, I gotta make a wheel CTEC. And make sure we're all set up. Well, they'll make sure we're all set up. Those are the things that I don't know, we have to discuss it later, but.
Madam Chairman, I would agree. I agree with Dr. Faust totally.
So you would
Yes.
make a motion to
Yes, I would.
amend the agenda
Yes, I would.
to add a discussion about streaming, specifically streaming and open meetings when it comes to legislative.
Yes.
Well, I'm just saying,
Any
this one,
little planning meeting.
this particular today, the reason why it was moved was because we had multiple things that were going on. And the BOE isn't available.
Put it on for discussion. We can talk about it.
So that's what I'm trying to gather is there is, what you're saying is you would like to make a motion to discuss the location of legislative and.
I move that we have a discussion about requiring staff to do the whole video setup on our meetings when they're just planning meetings.
Okay, so I hear a motion to amend the agenda. I will second that motion to amend the agenda. From what I'm gathering, the discussion piece is you'd like to have a conversation. And Doug Ross is not a committee member, so he doesn't have to vote on this, but he would like a discussion to discuss the logistics of the legislative committee. Is that kind of in a nutshell what you'd like to discuss, Ms.
In
Bradford?
regards to video and audio, yes.
Ms. Walker, do you have any input on this topic?
If you're just adding to the agenda, I'd love the discussion too. That's what we're talking about.
All right, so then all in favor to add a discussion about, I would recommend it to be in between the regional legislative network event and adjournment. And let's add 5 minutes for that. Just so all in favor to add that amendment of the agenda,
Aye.
say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That will pass 3-0.
Go back to reading.
Yeah. Yeah, we listen. Is there any reason why we can't? Well, actually, that's only 2 pages. I'm almost there.
Okay, committee members, have we had time to review the minutes?
Yes.
That's right.
So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented in both the September 18th meeting and the March 15th. Do I hear a second to approve?
Second.
Any discussion about the meeting minutes?
Except I haven't finished reading them, no, y'all can pass it, I guess, but.
You could always, if you found something, amend next time. I
Which
want
one
to
have
study
you
it
not
because
had?
I forgot
The
half
long
of the
one.
stuff from
Well,
March.
Then I will amend my motion to be, I will approve the September 18th minutes. Do I hear your second for that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor to approve the September 18th minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes. And then Ms. Walker, to give time for you to look over these minutes, I'll make a motion to postpone the approval of the March 15th minutes until you have time to review those.
Want to try and do that before we leave?
So
I'll do my best.
Finish their time.
I'll do my best.
Just keep reading.
I think in order to do that, Ms. Walker, I think we'd have to make a motion to amend the agenda to do that. So we can do that if you.
However
wish.
y'all want to do that. Just want to make sure if I say yes, that I believe that. It's
Do you think you need another minute or two?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the March 15 minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So both those minutes pass 3-0. So now we're going to be talking today about the regional legislative networking events. And what I pulled up my notes from last time. What we were discussing was an opportunity to regionally connect. And so we had tasked Ms. Bowie with the idea to reach out to Pender and Brunswick County in particular to create an opportunity for us to come together. So today I'd like for us to talk about the theme of what this event is going to look like. The date is December 13th. So we're going to have to talk about the length of time this is going to look like, the invite list, and we kind of trickled on that last time, but we're just going to finalize that this time because after this meeting we'll have a formal invite and as well as the schedule of events. So that being said, December 13th was the date because Ms. Bowie had reached out to the county parts, the county subparts, I guess. We discussed that in the finance office, it would be a good thing to have representation from both all of the counties present with that. We discussed a potential opportunity to discuss the state budget and some of the things that we are collectively seeing as a whole in public education and what that looks like. And we discussed an opportunity for each of the superintendents to speak on some things that they have seen work successfully in their own districts, maybe potentially good ideas, and then having those kind of smaller conversations at our table about things we'd like to see improved, in hopes that we can see some collaboration from one another of where some of our pressure points are that we'd like to see some changes, and that can in turn be helpful prior to going into a statewide networking event that we can kind of have some cohesiveness between Pender, Brunswick, and Hanover County of where a common thread would be. So that being said, I think I will open the floor, but these are, again, the kind of big highlights I'd like to talk about: the time, the theme, the invite list of who is invited, and the schedule that we will have at our table of events so everybody's on the same page. From my recollection, I think we talked about theme last time being potentially academic excellence. That's our number one strategic planning goal, is academic performance. So to have that be the theme, is that still where the committee's idea would be okay with that? We're talking, as I say, this committee is like glorified party planning because that's kind of what we're doing today. But to talk about, the table decorations and the things that maybe placemats that students are making, or cards that we can set out to kind of highlight some of our students at this event. But the theme would be academic excellence. Committee members, does that still sound like where we'd like to see this?
I'm good. I don't have any other idea. It is our number one strategic plan goal, so it would make sense. And we've never talked to these other counties.
Yeah, this is to
About
my
it,
knowledge,
yeah.
this is the first time thing. So this is really creating an opportunity to work together because we know the more commonalities we see, the more likelihood change can happen, whether that's in a form of a pilot program or a local bill. these are things that we need to work together to kind of brainstorm to help create change. And so I think that that is a common thread thing. The time frame, I think, looking at this,
Ms. Farmer, can we flesh
Yes,
that out a
ma'am.
little bit, the academic excellence theme? I know it kind of speaks for itself at the same time. If we're going to theme it out, are we going to have like an agenda attached to it, different parts to that? Where, it's a very broad topic.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm just trying to figure out, I know we're talking about theme time, people, folks like that, but like, I'm imagining once we get in the room, we're gonna want to have it to really expand on that. Like, do you have any idea, Dr. Bowles, like, what would you want to maybe highlight as academic excellence?
So I think we will all, the 3 different school districts will talk about their successes. And so it'll be time, I think, that's fleshed out for each school district at that time to talk about their things. So it's more like the introductory to capture our successes. And
do you think a 10-minute time frame for each superintendent would be plenty?
What the attendance for ours?
because that'll be 30 minutes out. So it's
So
like, yeah.
shorter,
Yeah,
five?
5, yeah,
Okay.
5-minute overview, yeah, because.
So, well, and this will be good because when I'm reaching out and when you're following up with the superintendents to say the expectation would be each superintendent to have a 5-minute overview of some of the things that they would like to highlight, but giving them some flexibility. So for us, at that stage, we would be the listeners in the room. But 5 minutes to highlight that and then kind of have some flexibility with the theme of academic excellence.
So would we also not want to, I mean, obviously we want to start off strong and talk about where we've succeeded and done well. Is it worth it to add in our number 1 or 2 challenges
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
so that we
Well,
can
that's-
come together as a collective?
I mean,
That's part of in what we had, from my recollection from the last meeting, when we were brainstorming this, is there a way that we can have an overview? And we wanted an opportunity for the superintendents to speak. We also wanted an overview of the budget. And so I don't know if Ms. Sutton and her counterpart at the county would like to help give that overview of what the budget entails as far as state budget and in regards to education, not making it specific to New Hanover County, because I know we got some direct funding, which is great. But is she up for that challenge, do you
So
think?
would it, not necessarily the county, but
Correct, the state budget, as far as different highlights that they did. So we saw some increases in performance for teacher pay if you were in the top 50, things like that, just kind of recapping where we are. Because that's a common thread with everybody that's gonna be in the room, it's regional. And how, could you get with her about how long she would need for that, or maybe estimate how long she would need for that? I mean, would it 15 minutes with that?
oh, she
I know
would
we kind of talked with her about it last time, that's why I'm
She
putting
would
her on the
be.
spot.
It's just a time, I would think. It would just depend on how much you wanted to share. So it could be, Ashley could do anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour.
Right.
So I would say, giving her like a 10-minute overview. If we're just talking about our district and the pullouts from there. But if she wanted to do like,
It would not be specific, because last time what the committee members talked about, we did not want to be specific to New Hanover County because that's different. We wanted the big picture. That way we can talk about the big picture. This is where we are as far as the state of education, and then allowing each superintendent opportunity to talk about highlights, but then also allowing time to talk about some things that we'd like to see changed. And that would be where kind of the breakout session. We're not going in different rooms, but like the tables of different discussions. So if there was an overview of the state budget in regards to public education at large, that is where I see an introductory of that, and then letting the superintendent speak for 5 minutes, and then breaking down, and then we would break down some of these questions of how to, do you think
She
10
can do
minutes?
she
10
can do
minutes?
that too.
so just to be clear, this is just an overview on state funding.
State
Yes,
budget,
so not specific to New Hanover County.
But specific to education, yes.
Yes, yeah. And so working with the county parts. So that would be my envision of like kind of the overarching overview of the state budget, allowing the superintendent to speak, and then it kind of comes into the nitty gritty. And Ms. Trable brought up to say the how do we make that work as far as kind of drilling in down to say, how can we ask those questions? And so do we want an opportunity to give the superintendents to share out maybe the top 2 challenges that they see? Is that fair to say? Okay. So again, 5 minutes each, I almost envision like a panel, Dr. Bass, of superintendents is saying, hey, allow you a 5-minute question, you can go behind the podium, but that's kind of what I envision of just say, could you speak to the top 2 areas that you like, if you had an opportunity to focus on, what would that look like? Specifically in regards to academic excellence. And so that would allow you guys to drill down and look at the data and see where it is in the district that you want to focus in on. And what that looks like, well, that's going to be a bigger conversation.
Right.
But so 5 minutes for each superintendent to discuss challenges and concerns. And it's not necessarily challenges and concerns just at large, but ideas in which you'd like to see address.
If we say improvement.
Okay, there you go.
Improvements.
So those 3 things together are about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, sorry.
So yeah, so you have them in order of budget first or successes first?
I would think budget first and then successes. What do you guys, I mean, this is what we're here to do today. So what do you think, Ms. Walker?
Start on the positive note.
So start out with the superintendents, let them speak and then go into that. Do you like that flow?
Because the successes would be from the last year, so then you come from last year into.
Okay.
So we're talking about what we need is, if we're talking legislatively, they're going to go back into session. We would.
And then you would roll into budget, that would be next
So
budget.
the budget, and I would put Ms. Sutton on the spot. She's not here to confirm or deny, but to put her on the spot and potentially work with our county finance person.
You're just asking.
So I would, well, I was saying county, or did you want to work with the 3 other CFOs?
I'm fine with working with the 3 other CFOs. Do you think that would be
I would
beneficial?
think that would be
Yeah.
beneficial to do.
So the 3 CFOs to help have a joint 10-minute presentation.
That'd be good, yeah.
So then if we give the superintendents kind of a panel site to talk about opportunities for improvement and what that looks like, the top 2. And then from there, I envision some table conversations about what that could look like and share outs. And I think I had written down before that maybe we could have some central office staff at every table, so they could kind of be the note takers to help share out the idea. Because does a 15-minute discussion seem like a long enough time? I don't want to keep these people here like trapped for hours, but I think an hour and a half is a legitimate time frame for networking, lunch, and opportunity. So right now we're close to 40 minutes if everything goes perfectly timed. And then if we had a table share out of another 15 of small group conversations about those concerns that we just heard from the superintendents. Yes, ma'am.
On your time frame, because we've got people coming from outside the county, why not have maybe a 15-minute meet or greet time that becomes a buffer if people are running late?
Or would we want to serve lunch first?
You start,
That'll give you
so you
time.
on the task force, so we can invite them just a little bit early to eat. Network.
So I think lunch was-
So we're sit down at tables, right, for the lunch? I see 3 round tables.
Susan, I think she's doing that for like maybe web.
I am, just don't look at my notes. In my head, it's hard to articulate sometimes. Well, we haven't, the setup of the event, we talked about using the Board of Education Center. We talked about utilizing round tables. And so I love the opportunity for a meet or greet, and maybe there's some little munchies to do. But I think during the time of the presentation, the superintendent and the overview, that's a great time for people to be eating. And yeah, while you're talking, you don't get to eat. You'll be fine, I promise. And then the overview, but then that way everybody can be done eating for the smaller table discussions.
There's gonna be a lot of activity getting up, throwing stuff away. I don't know.
Crunching into microphones.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of eating while somebody important is talking.
I mean, this is how a lot of networking events do happen, is you're sitting there eating while you're listening to whatever is being presented, so I don't think it's.
So the microphones on the tables wouldn't be live at that point because you're listening.
So we
Listening mode.
I mean, I like that idea of like a 15 minute meet or greet window that'll allow people the opportunity to grab their food, to come sit down, and then, you know, we'll kind of have
What, no waiters?
Sorry.
Sorry.
And then, between maybe, you know, to have a little break session, in between the superintendent, talks about improvement that people can kind of get up and clear their plates and stuff like that. Just like we don't want people up and down the whole time, but to have a break session between, so.
So, let's say, looking at it, we've got successes, and then we've got budget discussion and then challenges. And then I think you were talking about, fourth thing, I would like to see how we can work together. You know, this is the whole point of us coming together, and maybe we can do that in a breakout, like you were saying, with, sticky notes or whatever. I don't know how that works. I just feel like.
Well, and that's why I drew pictures, because I imagine, okay, we're at different tables, and so if there was a designated person, and I could, you know, just offer up our staff, kind of, maybe Dr. Cross will offer up our staff to be kind of those note takers, and so they could have a big sticky note or whatever to kind of share ideas. We just heard about concerns that are happening. Let's talk about what are some ideas to help address those concerns at each of these. And then what I'd like to see happen before we leave is an opportunity to share out, see where those common threads are, to say, okay, now the follow-up of us getting together again regionally, we can focus on these and really have like a more of a work session.
So would you want to have what I consider as a guided conversation?
Yes.
Where if there are no cards and it keeps them on track, and
So this 15-minute window. would be
and so
a
then
good-
you can have everyone talking about basically the same thing, but at different tables. And then they could chart out or whatever. And then if you want to bring it together, it's like the question stem.
Some questions. Yeah.
Because I think what I'm hearing you say is that what is the connectivity of all three counties?
That's exactly
That
what we're
for
talking
the southeastern region, this is what we want to lock hands with. And more so, I guess, petition our legislators.
But definitely, this is a good opportunity to figure out what our common themes or
Right.
what our common concern or important things, and collectively.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
You said with no cards, could you flesh that a little bit?
Well, it could be, I'm just actually throwing that out there.
No, I was thinking that before you
So,
said it. What were you
typically it's like, we put the cards on the table, and so then there would be a leader at the table. So it could be, someone from, senior staff
Yeah.
sits at there.
I'm so glad you
they're
suggested,
doing
because I was
their-
thinking it was too juvenile,
their
but
card, and they say to help guide that conversation, keep people on task. So if we're at a time limit, you definitely want to make sure that you're going to get them in, get them out on time, because some will get sidetracked.
no, I agree.
I vaguely remember, one minute, Mr. I vaguely remember a conversation that we could potentially pull, from Lake Forest, maybe have them help with the pledge or sing the national anthem. Did I just dream that up, or did we have that conversation? Maybe we could.
We could, yeah, we could. I was looking at Christopher, yeah, we definitely could.
Is that it?
And we've utilized Lake Forest before for the pledge, and then we worked with arts education to have a small group to come in and perform the national anthem.
All right. Yes, Ms. Crable, what's the question?
So is this meeting for all board members? Or just the legislative committees of each board?
I mean, this is a discussion for the committee, but we discussed it would be a networking opportunity, so. It
Well,
would
who's networking?
like,
The whole board?
I would think.
that would mean that this is a discussion for the committee, so I'm looking at my colleagues here, but that's what I think, so yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
are we doing the business of the board here? In this meeting? That meeting? This regional meeting?
We've had regional meetings before.
Yeah, you won't be making,
Decision?
you won't be making a decision, you'll just be sitting there technically.
Yeah, there's the.
For instance, like when you go to the teacher of the year,
We've had joint meetings with the county.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's just such a gray area, and I had forgotten about the not making decisions. It's one of the qualifiers.
right. Yeah, this is not this is not a time to make decisions. We're seeing if there's commonalities of ways that we can improve in the tri-county area, because from there, that will allow the board potential direction to advocate on a broader scale. So that's the purpose of that.
So
So
Ms. Barnhart, looking to ask that question again, so is the idea that the board members of the three respective boards would mix up at these three roundtables?
yes, there would be table assignments.
Okay,
in my
and
mind.
then the guided instruction and note-taking from staff, would that be each district put somebody there as a guided instruction leader so that it's not like us taking over, like I'm gonna use example, Dr. Fix, as our chief academic officer, might be at table one. And then her counterparts in Brunswick and Pender would be at table 2 and 3.
So I don't know if they can bring all of their people.
Okay, I'm just
So,
asking,
and the so
do we invite them to do
the
that?
reason why I would say that is that their districts are smaller than ours.
Yeah,
And,
from the feedback from individuals that Pender and Brunswick, they have not, their whole board will not be coming. That has been the information told. There has been 1 or 2 individuals from each boards that have said they will be coming in attendance. So this is initiated by New Hanover County. This is initiated by us having conversations of what does it look like to do a better job trying to put together a vision to help change what support looks like for public education. And so one of the ways was talking about how to connect people together. And so I have no problem reaching out, and maybe Dr. Baus can help with that, to see if they'd like that opportunity to help with guided discussions, but also to put the brunt of it on New Hanover County, since we're hosting it, to say, we're not throwing this on you, we're inviting you to a conversation. And so that's the difference in feel here. And I'm gonna be respectful of time because we do have a hard stop at just before noon today. So this is what I have so far. To potentially, I wrote down pledge/national anthem at the beginning, question mark. A meet or greet window of about 15 minutes, allowing, then I would think the pledge and national anthem after that.
Yeah.
Then I would think the superintendent's 15 minutes, 5 minutes each to speak. A 10-minute overview from all 3 CFOs. 5 minutes each for superintendent to discuss the top 2 concerns and areas for improvement, allowing for 15-minute guided conversations with question sets that our staff can be helping facilitate. A 10-minute potential share out of opportunity, and then a 5-minute closing. Committee members' feedback, does that sound like a good flow to you? Any areas of concerns?
Need a break and you need like 30 seconds between each deal for just transition in terms of your timekeeping.
So we, should break it.
I would like to talk a little bit more about that. I think I've got it as number 6, which is after the challenges or
The
important.
top areas to improve on, yes.
And what was the next one after that?
I said
Break
guided
out?
discussions, yeah, 15 minutes guided discussions.
Do we want to kind of elaborate on what that's going to look like?
So what I envision is we're gonna take the information that our superintendents are bringing to the table and making those be the topics of guided discussions. So after this meeting, I'm gonna follow up with the people who have said yes on the Pender and Brunswick side. I'm gonna follow up directly with the superintendents to let them know kind of this is the framework, because when this idea kind of spawned back, a few months ago, I reached out in the summer and some people were like, called me on the phone, they're like, hey, what are you trying to do here? And so I think now having a better vision, they might even be proactive in sharing some of those concerns ahead of time, so we can have a formalized prep. If it's not, and I think it's gonna be a conversation with the superintendents themselves to kind of let them know that this is gonna be a positive conversation, not a gotcha moment. And
Right.
so I think
Planning session.
I think after those conversations are had, you guys might even kind of come together and have a pre-conversation. I don't know, that's up to you. I hope that you do, because I think that would be valuable for that. But that's where I think the guided stems are gonna come from. It's not necessarily that we're leading them. They are the leaders of each of these districts, and to say, let's take where you're at and let's talk about some of the things that we see. And that might be going into depth about some of the funding for certain positions and alignments. That might be going to depth in some of the areas of success that we've seen. It might be going into depth of some of the things that we'd like to try. I don't know exactly what those conversations are going to look like, but
Would it be appropriate to ask in advance if the supers had anything that they really wanted to see accomplished? I mean, do we have a stated goal here? What do we hope, where do we hope to be when it's over?
Yeah, to work together.
so
The collaboration between the three
Opportunity.
counties.
of share out, what I'd like to do is after this coming in the new year, right? We talked about having a separate entity for New Hanover County networking with state legislators prior to them going back to short session, whenever that happens. But I think it would be meaningful for us to come together for a work session again that talks specifically about these common thread share outs that we're going to be creating from this meeting in December. That would have to be after the new year, so we're not, fighting back to back. But I think what this does is allows the framework to be had to follow up that conversation. So this is kind of, this is the first time of this happening, so we have to have that's a good word, inaugural meeting at regional meeting. So, but we have to have some base work of where we're at, and that's kind of laying where we're at, what we might hope for a little bit, because, and then coming back together and brainstorming what that is, because I know from the people who I've spoken to on the Brunswick and Pinter side, they're passionate about meeting with their representatives. We're passionate about meeting with ours. And so if we can come back together, this is a networking event. Maybe we come back together, maybe it's a workshop event. I don't know what to call it, but to come back together to talk about this so we can have some common language of concern and really go into our channels of advocacy at the state level for that.
So I'll just recap successes.
So-
Budget,
Meet and greet first.
right, meet and greet at the very, very beginning, then we're gonna go into successes. No, Pledge of Allegiance,
Yes, ma'am.
successes, and then budget discussion, challenges and important gut things, and then the guided conversations, the guided discussions, and then you're saying 10 minutes for that?
15 minutes for guided discussion, and then I think a 10-minute share out. We're not gonna come to a time of conclusion of how to fix all the things, but what we're doing is we're just bringing out to the table so we can kind of take away and think about some of those things further so we can come back to the table. When that's gonna be, we'll have to set a date for it, but I think it will be beneficial. And then a 5-minute closing.
What's between challenges and guided conversation? Did I miss something? No.
You mentioned a break at some point, but you know how I am with breaks, they don't happen, so
Just go.
we just go. We're not gonna have time, we're having so much fun, we're not gonna have time for a break.
We're adults, we can do that.
Yeah, we just go, right.
Would the, whatever the link is between the three, would different boards then, when they're doing their advocacy, how are you going to decide, or is it going to just be, I shouldn't say how we're going to decide, what's going to be the plan to advocate? Is it going to be the legislative committees come back together, or?
That would be something, so to flush out, we would need all of our board's approval to start going. So this is not something that we can just take and run with it. This is something we'd have to present before the board, vote on concern. Maybe I don't know, that when we come back together for a potential work session, maybe that would be a suggestion of adopting a form of a resolution or I don't know what that looks like, but a common thread stance that we could bring to each of our boards and say, do we support this? Yes or no? Maybe not. And it might be that we have varying levels of what support looks like. So we might have a common theme of support specifically with dealing with ratios, with ratio allotments. I don't know what that's going to look like from the conversation because I can't predict that. Yes, ma'am.
Maybe we have a common, we have three things. Each county puts up three things, and then, we kind of, then one's gonna rise to the top. When you've got overlap on three.
Yeah, because
So
I
instead of
imagine
just asking for the one thing, and that's just so far in the future, it just popped in my head. That you could,
Yeah, the interesting part, so the legislative committee, when we first met, and I let you and Dr. Crescent just run, I was like, what does it look like tonight? And so to dream big is great, and then it kind of rolled in to say, you know, this is really an opportunity for us to come together and network because all of the board members are responsible for speaking to our representatives. So it's not on the shoulders of just these three ladies to do that. So it's just, we are passionate to bring people together.
Knowledge gather.
Yeah, that we're passionate to bring people together and say, what does it look like in the form of a local bill and pilot programs are very common. And so I see this as an opportunity. If we can kind of collectively see where that gap is. I don't know where it is yet, but if we can see that, then we can present to our board, this is what we're seeing. Hopefully all the boards will say yes, and then to in turn share that.
So that does lead to the conversation we were starting, and Ms. Crable had asked about, which is who we're inviting. So we've got school boards, superintendents,
Yeah.
CFOs. Are we inviting county commissioners from any of the regions or not? Just school board?
School board superintendent, CFOs. What do you guys think? I think with this juncture, I think for county commissioners,
Officials.
well, we are elected officials.
But I started to say beside us before you. Be on.
Oh, sorry. My apologies.
It's okay.
Huh.
But let's look at it realistically. Pender, they send 2 people. Brunswick, they send 3 people.
It's two.
That's
I think
optimistic.
they're
Okay, 2. And then we have plus the CFOs, there's 1. So right now I'm kind of a skinny crowd. Just us.
I am not opposed to inviting our county commissioners and counterparts. And the reason why is this, is because when you look at advocacy, what are our areas to get revenue? It's state or local. And so this is where the tricky part is, right? If we come up with a great plan and just New Hanover County Commissioners say yes to it, you know, that might put a sour taste in our friend's mouth, but like, I don't know, what do you think? Do you think it would be beneficial to have that conversation and see like that we're putting in work to try to?
Well, I had mentioned to you before, I'd spoken to one of the Brunswick County Commissioners that had said, why aren't we doing this? Because it is important to do. So I think some of them might want to, and I'm not saying invite all of them, but.
I think that would be great, and I think Ms. Bowie, if you wouldn't mind helping me reach out with when the invitation list. I'm fine with opening it up to the county commissioners. I think that's a good idea. They might also be able to help the advocacy level on the state level, and so that might be something, I would be fine with that. Would you be fine with opening it to the county? What do you think? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm just having a legal side conversation here.
Okay.
Because I was thinking, what about the county managers? Because again, we don't, I mean, I don't know. Maybe the media can tell us of a county, where the county managers get together and talk. How often do they do that? If we're looking to build cohesion among the counties.
I love that
in
idea.
response to education.
Yeah.
But Dr. Faust had some specific things, specific reasons why we might want to tweak that with elected officials. But you know, we've never done that. I have the experience of having been present when the beach towns, Figure 8, Curry Beach, Carolina Beach, and Rensselaer Beach said, hey, we're all fighting the same battle. We're fighting 4 different battles. Let's get together. Let's become a group. And they became the beach towns. And they got things done. They started to work on, you know, something as common as beach renourishment. And it was successful. And so I see this as being the same sort of coalition. But of course, everyone's going to be suspicious of everyone. Everyone's going to be worried. Are we in competition with each other? Because I was there for all of that. So I know how that went. And it's probably going to be similar. But there's so much good that has come out of that. And I can't imagine them ever saying, oh, let's don't do this. So I can see it working. I can see it working.
Once we figure out what we can do together, then definitely.
There's got to be a ton of stuff.
I would, so if we were saying, I would say commissioners, that would be my.
And not county managers.
Because the commissioners would then say, why did you invite the manager versus us? That would be my.
So then the list would be,
either or.
I mean, you can invite them all, but I would not if you.
I just want to say
So that's a thought.
because I know we've had a few, breakfast conversations, and the county manager, honestly, they know everything.
Yeah.
They're the ones that guide
They
the
are.
commissioners.
There they
Yes.
are, and they'll be
Yeah.
fine. So this is who I have on the list. School board members from Pender, Brunswick, and New Hanover. Superintendents from Pender, Brunswick, and New Hanover. CFOs from the school districts, Pender, Brunswick, and New
What about
Hanover.
CFO from the county?
I think the county manager would be okay. I mean, that would be the person. that would-
But if you're wanting the decision maker, that's almost like sending me to a meeting to hear it, but the board wasn't there. It's like, well, we're just gonna keep it going.
She's putting them all on there.
So I would say you bring the county commissioners, and you can also say the county managers, but I think you have a better chance with the county commissioners because the managers in their day-to-day work, meaning they may not have the
So
time.
school board members, superintendent, chief finance officers of the districts, and our county commissioners. Are there any other suggestions, committee members?
If we extend the invitation to the county commissioners from the three counties, could we just also tag on the managers so they don't get offended? I mean, what if they came?
I think they're important for the conversation, but like
I
honestly,
kind of do too.
because, you've started talking a lot out loud about bonds and
True. Point.
I know we're gonna have a finance committee meeting anyway. But I know when I watch county commission meeting, they frequently ask the county manager questions because they're on the pulse of everything.
I would be fine with adding to the list. I mean, that was probably
And we probably
it's still
get
under
two
50
county
people.
commissioners and if the manager didn't want to come or had a conflict, they would send one of their people. So I'd rather extend the invitation than not extend the invitation.
I think essentially the county managers are like our version of the superintendent.
Should we also extend for the chief academic officer at all the districts as well, since we're talking about academic excellence?
Dr. Mason might do that.
I mean, yes, but I don't know if you can extend it, but I don't know if they'll do it. Because see, then you have the superintendent, the CFO, and we're fortunate because it's right here in our district, so if there's an emergency, we just leave her out where they've got to.
One lunch.
It couldn't hurt to ask.
You say that and that's when everything's gonna hit the wall. So you're like, that's the day.
No.
So timeframe, does like an 11:30 to 1 timeframe sound good? Because it's roughly an hour and a half of what we have on the docket.
The thing I got this morning, I wrote the time down, it said
It
10:30.
just said hold, it just
It
said.
said 10:30 to 2. Which is probably,
long.
did you have a reason for that time, Ms. Crystal?
To just
Or
to
did you
hold
pick it
that
up in
time.
there?
Just putting a hold.
Yeah, I just put a hold, and
Okay.
we had briefly touched upon like 11 to 1 at the last meeting, but we can certainly.
I'm fine with saying 11 to 1. If you ladies want to say that, and we can, have a little bit extra time.
And so from 11 to 11:15 is a meet and greet?
Same.
So, yeah, if we say 11 to 1, we could work in a little break, Miss Bradford, give you a couple minutes of just networking, talking with people.
Spring break.
2 hours. I think 2 hours is max.
2 hours.
Should be
Yeah,
max.
I can't have a 2-hour meeting without a bathroom break, sorry. It's gotta be
Okay, so
some
then
long.
we can fit in a break. So if we say 11 to 1 on December 13th. So far on the list, school board members, superintendents, district CFOs, county commissioners, county managers, and also extending to the chief academic officer. Or we could say / superintendent. Or designate, I don't know, choice.
Plus one.
Okay, yeah, okay, +1. Sure.
Do we need their crystals?
We always need a Miss Bowie, so.
I mean, do we need theirs?
That's up to them. Because if we're the ones hosting.
So how many people have you guesstimate that to be at this point?
I think 2 from each county. School board members are coming and superintendent, so I think it's only gonna be 3 from each county and then I asked Ms. Louie to check with the schedule of the county people, so I don't know how many county people are coming, so, yeah.
When you do the agenda, will you lay it out as like 11:15 meet and greet, this time, and just put it on the.
So, Ms. Bowie, can I work with you to get invitation agenda, meet and greet, things like that to send it out to these committee members. Are we 11 to 1 is a big window, but we're just basically, we'll extend the time of the meet and greet and closing / networking at the end. That will be the buffer. So we basically have an hour and a half of content here, but just know we're going to extend a little bit of.
I like that, extending it, that's good.
And so I will send a recap of that out with this. I'll work with her before we go on our training trip next week to get this out to you guys to via email to say yes. And then we'll have that formal invite go out next week. Does that sound good?
Can I just throw one thing out?
Yes.
The, as, just for food for thought, that at the law conference, I was asked by several people from other counties, just casual conversation. So it looks like New Hanover County got a lot of extra money, line item. So is that something that we want to just be prepared to hear from our neighbors to the north and south? Not that they're, I don't want to say jealous is not the right word, but why, maybe they didn't lobby hard enough, maybe, I don't know, but I think it's worth it just for us to keep in the back of our mind that we got more than everybody else.
And I'm grateful. So I will say that.
No, and I am grateful also, but
So,
to have people make that comment, unsolicited was kind of interesting.
well, I appreciate bringing that up. We are coming up to time. And so with that, we have added a discussion about the streaming and networking. So it was like I said, this meeting today was a glorified planning committee meeting because we were talking about the event on December 13th. And I appreciate Ms. Bowie getting the meeting minutes to us for the 2 meetings. And so those we posted on some, like I said earlier. The whole justification of setting up, and there was a conflict, and I didn't realize that today, but the setting up and breaking down, since it was people already in central office, to me, it just made sense to be here. So with that, I'll let you have the floor to share your concerns, like we sidebarred earlier.
Right, I knew there was conversation about why it wasn't that there were only, I knew the purpose of this was just to put on paper what the design of the meeting was going to be. And so we couldn't bump the people who were already in when the BOE is set or Spencer is set or CDRC is set, we didn't really need to have that big of a space to do justice. So my question was literally, when we're having a planning meeting, do we need to bring people from communications to live stream? Because it's not in policy. That's my thing. It's not in policy. I'm not going to break policy. If we are, the board has to say policies for every meeting, because board meetings are not, that's not actually been policy.
Yeah.
To stream. That became popular during the COVID season so that everyone had access. But behind behind that door, there's someone sitting at that camera, watching every moment, making sure sound, making sure live stream, making sure it's on Facebook or all of our platforms. And so my question is it a good
use of resources?
Good use of resources for them to come and set up the live stream when we're doing planning meeting?
Committee members, I'll hear from you first.
I agree totally. Yes, I do. Being conservative is not a political statement. I'm fiscally conservative, and every time we launch the ship, with all of the staff and they have to drive time that's away from their desk, we cut their work days way down, and they have pretty full work days. They're obligated. So every time we put that meeting room, the live stream and the audio and the security and so on, that's a dollar and cents expense to the school district. And we mine so many other little dollars and cents so heavily, but nobody seems to really appreciate the fact that we're spending our talent and our people and our treasure to do something that is just satisfying a handful of people who basically just don't trust us to have a meeting and not be doing something nefarious. It's ridiculous, to be honest. And it surprised me that after the fact, we created the video and the audio for this. I thought it was just going to be us sitting there at the table doing the planning. And I thought, when we got elected, we were trusted enough to do those sort of things. That's one.
Thank you. Well, trust obviously is an issue. I've felt that since I've started on board for 3 years now. So it's important that because we are a public body, we are publicly elected. We had our very first meeting live stream. I think the expectation was we were going to do the same. Also, we are a standing committee, which means we are obligated to the public to let them know. If we have conflicts in the future, you make sure we don't have conflicts. And I will say is I was at the EDI meeting last night. We only had a person there distributing security. We didn't have any of that stuff.
No, that's the security. Just that's something behind there's
Right,
somebody that's
there was somebody there as well, but then that's the expectation as well. And sometimes we do have planning meetings, but I get your point on, being, and I'm not conservative necessarily, but I am fiscally responsible as well. And just because Democrat doesn't mean I'm not. So I understand that part of it, but I also understand that we are a public body and we do have expectations for folks that
And
are
yours
going
is
to be
that-
able to be excessive. It's going to be
And
excessive.
I'm sorry, and your meeting was after hours, so like during the
So
middle
we
of
have
the,
it later next time.
right, but during the middle of the day, like,
Well, and that's fine too, but then we don't have it in the middle of the day. And plus central office is very far from some of us. BOE is centrally located. Hey, if we want to meet somewhere else, that's fine too. There's schools that we can open up. We have to. It's just,
But you're saying every planning meeting that every committee has needs to be live streamed because we have to be that transparent? I disagree.
I don't know, but if we're gonna start changing it, then, we're probably gonna get pushback, and that's only because that's what the norm has been.
Well,
No,
we
I
push
agree.
back on
I-
everything that we do.
Ladies, I appreciate both of you guys bringing what you're bringing to the conversation. I was very intentional to make sure we had the Board of Education committee meeting for the legislative committee because we were going through we were going through bills, we were talking about resolutions, we were talking about things that we were
Exactly.
actively doing. And so it was a very different setup that I will absolutely advocate for, that we need to keep that setup in this event. To plan details of a networking event, I don't feel it's necessary to have a live stream version. And I do take your point very well, Ms. Bradford. We pay these individuals to do their job, and they're here having this conversation with us because this is our committee. And the time constraints, that was on my schedule too, because when I heard back from Ms. Bowie that saying, yes, this date works, we had to come together. So then I said, these are my available dates and before Thanksgiving. And so that was the time constraint in there. So there was not as much flexibility to say, we need to be in the Board of Education Center. It was, we need to get this on the books so we can get together and get that invite list out and have it formalized. So that was the intent behind this meeting today. And so,
I just want to be open, that's all, and I want to
I
make
think
it
we
more
are being
centrally
open.
located. Y'all don't have to drive this far. I know you're probably closer to me, but it's just hard. I don't want to make it harder for people. And I know that people are asking me, why am I not seeing this? And I'm aware of the minutes, and I'm like, I don't know.
and part of that is with staff, and we try our very best to get those out. And so those are now approved minutes that everybody can see. You're not hiding anything. All of us are on this committee meeting. We can recap what was going on to anybody. And I have shared with that, nothing that we do as a committee can be taken and run with. It has to go before the board to be approved. So this is not something that is being done in secrecy.
Well, I
Do you
never,
think
I
it's being
never
done
said
in
it was
secrecy?
secret. It's just that we've only just gotten minutes, and that's nothing to do with Crystal. She's excellent at her job, and it's nothing to do with her at all. I'm just saying that we have to be timely with that, because if we had minutes up before, I don't think people would have been like, okay, what's this about?
So it's really more if the minutes were up, it'd be less of an issue for you. Is that what
Well,
you're saying?
it's not an issue. It's that's the rules of a standing committee, is make sure we have our minutes up. And I don't know what the timeline is beyond that, but we really should be making sure whatever minutes are from here that it gets uploaded as quick as possible.
and I was going to say, this was more specific for this meeting. I'm not talking about all the other committee meetings. This
Yeah.
specific one is the one where I was wanting us to have this discussion because of, it was literally just putting a pen to paper as to, putting an agenda, yeah, who comes, what do you want, what the order, not full blown out, let's talk about, full legislation. That's a total different, I think, meeting
So
that has to.
that's just one question on the BOE Center, and
Yes.
it's fine, because it is a large space. There's a Spencer building that's right behind those meetings, so that's where they used to hold more education. But it's just possible to make it just more central and it,
So that one's not, that one you can't live stream, so we have to set it up for some other type of.
So still be an open meeting
Yeah, it
without.
would be, the only place that we have that is live stream capabilities is the BOE, because it's already the connection and all the wiring and stuff that goes there. All of our other places are not. This is, I think.
I'm open to either meeting here. I'm open to meeting at the May Spencer. Absolutely, if we are going through legislative or we're talking about creating a resolution that we're going to bring before the board, that is absolutely going to be something that's done in the Board of Education Center. I did not feel it was necessary to have a live stream version today because we're talking about details of the event. I shared with individuals what the point of the agenda was, and I encouraged them to reach out to you two to verify my story of this is what we're discussing, because I feel like we've been on the same page as far as what we'd like to see accomplished and networking with individuals, and I've been excited to have this conversation. It is time.
One comment, if we're worried
Yes.
about our drive time and our minutes can't get done time, Miss Crystal has to be in everything we do. She doesn't have to leave the building. And I'm respectful of that. Dr. Faust doesn't have to leave the building. I'm respectful of that. I would prefer to have the drive time on me or the distance on me than to do it for them, because, you know, if their day starts at 8 in the morning and they're still here at 9 o'clock at night, that concerns me. And every hour we take out of their schedule, they have to make up somewhere. The work doesn't go away.
Crystal doesn't have to do minutes every, they do their minutes. Like, people can take minutes. I mean, you want me, I'll take minutes. I don't care. I'm not trying to put anybody out at all. But at the same time, you know, I'll selfishly say it's the one that drives probably almost as far as besides our chair. I mean, it's, I just imagine what it's like for other folks that want to be able to attend our meetings, which are public meetings officially. And that's all I'm saying. And I think next time we just be mindful of time and the conflict, to Dr. Faust's point about, you know, individual, and I don't want to make Crystal's job any harder. So, I mean, and I just think if I need to take minutes, or one of us are designated to take minutes in the future, if it's a planning meeting, I'm happy to do it. As long as you just get it on in a timely manner, because folks do pay attention to what we do and they're going to question. So, I mean, it seems fair. It's fair.
Right, and I appreciate it. And this is a new committee, and so we've been forging the way. And with that, I appreciate everyone's time, and I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll say.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That passes 3-0. Thank you so much for your time, everybody.
Saying,